Welcome to the Master Your Millions podcast, the show all about your financial potential and leaving a legacy for future generations. Here are your hosts, Jason and Scott Henderson.
Welcome back, everyone. I am your host, Scott Henderson, and my co-host is Dr. J. We have a very special visitor today. Jason, who do we have coming on?
Scott, I'm super excited about our visitor today. He is going to be quite different than a lot of the guests that we have had up to this point. Simply given his background, who he is, where he came from, and what he has overcome. This is a man, and his name is Thomas Hardening, although he goes by Tommy. He was born and raised, for the most part, in Brooklyn, New York. And I'm not going to go much further. This guy has changed his life. And one of the messages that we talk about on this podcast is all about, amassing wealth, enjoying it, and then passing it on. Yet we've had a couple of discussions here and there. It's how your heart and your mindset needs to be right in order to accumulate that wealth, number one, but also have the ability to enjoy the wealth. If you're running around doing the wrong kinds of things and running from the law or whatever it is, you're not enjoying much. So I'm humbled and I'm excited, Tommy, to have you on.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Scott. Well, let's get right to it. I'm gonna give it to you straight.
Tell us a little bit about your childhood, growing up. Yeah, I know your family didn't have a whole lot. I remember a little bit. One of the apartments was in the basement of a building.
Yeah, my
I don't know where you want to start. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, I'm the sixth child of 8. Okay, and we lived in Brooklyn, New York, but a place called Borough Park, Brooklyn, which is a very Hasidic Jewish neighborhood. Now, my father was a jack of all trades. In other words, he was an electrician, a plumber, mechanic, carpenter. He did all of that. And he took this job, brought his family to this basement apartment. They gave us the basement apartment for free. It was, I believe, 6 rooms. And my dad was the super, and he had all these kids, boys, there's 5 boys and 3 girls, that helped him do all the work in the building. We helped him, clean the hallways, take out the garbage, do whatever had to be done. He bring him his tools that he needed, whatever apartment, all the maintenance, we did all of that. And I was doing that when I was like, 10, 11 years old, very young.
Say a little bit about, okay, we went right past this. It's a 99% Hasidic Jewish area.
Yes.
Right? You're a black man.
Yeah.
You're a black man.
The only black family there.
Holy smokes, did you stick out or what?
Oh, yes. Yes. We certainly sticked out. See, my mother's part Italian, Russian, right? And her family's from the UK. And my dad, of course, obviously African-American. And I don't know what he's thinking about back in the day when he's doing that. But they let us stay there. And the landlord, I remember his name. His name is Abraham Landau, Mr. Landau. He liked the way my dad worked. My dad was a good, efficient worker. So he just took the chance and said, you know what, let me give this guy a free apartment and he'll take care of the building. Because you had I think we had 54 apartments in that building. And my dad and us, we just took care of everything. He'd tell us what we need to do and we do it. Because my dad was really tough. He was really strict and tough with us. He wasn't light on us whatsoever. So I loved the basement. I enjoyed it. It was a cold, it was vast. It was big. It was gigantic. I rode my bike in there. I bring my friends over there. We had a pool table down in one of the rooms down in there. It was fun being young and living in that basement. It was fun. We had good times and bad times there. But the good times were getting to an end, and then the bad times were really coming, because the only downfall of that, Jason and Scott, is that my dad became an alcoholic, a real bad alcoholic. And he became very abusive to my mother, very abusive. And I witnessed this at a very young age. the name calling and the way that he treated her and the threats, it got real bad. It got real bad. But that led me, what happened was, unfortunately, that led me to the streets. And in that neighborhood, in Borough Park, you couldn't really do anything in that neighborhood. So what I did was I walked a little further, which was, we lived on a place called 53rd Street and 15th Avenue. So if I would walk to 65th Street and the Utrecht Avenue, it's the Italian neighborhood and the Irish and Hispanics. So that's the part of it. It was called Bensonhurst. That's the part that I tended to hang out with, me and my friends, which led me down a dark road, because what happened was we developed a clique. These are all the guys in the neighborhood that didn't have the greatest home life, so we developed a clique, and it was called a gang called the Warlords. We're talking, you gotta understand something. I'm 63. Okay, I'm 63 years old. All right, so I've been around a hot minute. I mean, if you look at the picture of me on the cover, come on, I had an afro when I was 16 years old. That's from the 70s, and we just started committing crimes. I started committing crimes, because my home life was horrible. The fights, and my father was very destructive. He'd break up things in the house, and he's the one that has to repair them later. I never really understood that, but that's the way it was. And I got into stealing cars. Then I got arrested at a very young age.
Interject real quick. You got into crime. Tell me, what was the first crime, and what led to that? Was it a dare? Was it just let's do something stupid tonight? I was, I'd had a little bit of alcohol, maybe some drugs or something. What? That first one is kind of significant. Do you remember what that was?
Oh yes, of course I remember. My father had all the keys to the apartments upstairs, and I was breaking into the apartments, me and my friends. We had the key.
And you'd
to
go
the
up there and take
apartments.
stuff.
Yeah, we were stealing, committing burglaries.
Wow.
We were committing
So
burglaries, in that building, and bringing all the stuff that we were stealing down into the back of the basement and hiding it. Yeah, we were doing
someplace
it.
that could be found.
My father, this basement was so big, Jason. I mean, it was really big, and the apartment was up towards the front. And there's multiple different exits and entrances for that basement. And there was lots of rooms back there. There was lots of stuff. Nothing was ever found down there. My father wouldn't go into certain parts of that basement, and I knew that. I knew where he would go, where he wouldn't go. He'd mostly be in his maintenance shop, where he has all his tools and stuff that he needs to go upstairs to work. And unfortunately, well, I'm not going to say fortunately, we were never caught, and we broke into many apartments. We were never caught. I don't know why we weren't. We just was never caught doing that. And then it stopped after a while, because what I did was, when we formed the gang and we were running the streets, I got into stealing cars and bringing them to chop shops. I got older. I kind of graduated. I got older. I was robbing, stealing cars when I was like 15 years old. Stealing cars, lots of cars. And in the 70s, you gotta understand something. In the 70s, there were no key fobs. A lot of people didn't have alarms, and the hoods opened from the outside, not from the inside. Now you have to pull them to open the hood. I mean, if we couldn't steal a car, we would cut the battery cables, take the battery, we would sell the batteries, whatever. We were just doing crazy, incredible stuff at a young age, because we felt that we wanted to belong, and we had each other. So we each looked at each other like, I could do this, I could do that, or whatever. You ain't got the balls for this, you ain't got the balls for that. That's the way it was with us, with my crowd. I remember the guys, Richie Franza, Phil, Gary, Willie, all these guys I remember from years ago that were doing these crimes with me. And the bad thing about that was in the neighborhood, the Italians started recognizing me, because I was a big guy. I mean, I'm a big guy now. When I was young, I was in a lot better shape than I am now. I'm 270 and 6'4", but when I was younger, I was like more cut. And then the guys in the neighborhood, they're called Shylocks. You ever heard of Shylocks? Mm-hmm. The Italians and the Irish, they call them Shylocks. Shylocks are the guys that collect money, protection money for the organized crime. And one of the guys had a conversation with me, and he knew that I was in the neighborhood. I was stealing cars. Now go fast forward. I got out of the gang. It kind of died off of me and the guys hanging out in the streets. Okay, that died off. And then I kind of graduated to organized crime when I started working for these guys, the loan sharks, and we were considered Shylocks and protection money. In other words, I'd go to the meat stores in the neighborhood, go to the meat stores, and I'd go in there and I'd tell them if they don't give us such and such money per week, I'm going to burn the store down. And meanwhile, I'm telling them this, and I'm taking all the meat and I'm putting it in a shopping basket, and I'm going up to the front, getting a bag, and I'm walking out with the stuff that they had that I didn't pay for. And I'd be there with 2 other guys, and we were, like scaring these people into doing what we want. And I told them if they, get in contact with the police, I do something to them. And I regret, first of all, let me just say this. I regret all of that I've done. I regret it. But the reality is that's what I was doing at the time. That's what I was doing. I was committing these crimes, these felonies. And it got really bad when I met Irish guy named Irish Jimmy. I'm just going to call him Irish Jimmy. This is in my book. And Irish Jimmy ran a really tight organization in Manhattan on 14th Street and 10th Avenue. And it was a club called Hellfire. The club was called Hellfire. Now, when I met Jimmy, Jimmy told me he wanted me to step up and be a bag man and work for him from Manhattan, which I took because he was paying a lot of money to me. We worked out of the club. That was our spot where we cleaned the money. We make our collections from all over the place, from Manhattan, Queens, Staten Island, the Bronx. I would go to all these places and we would offer protection to people, but they'd have to pay us. And then not only that, we got into loan sharking, of course, and gambling. Okay, Jimmy was into gambling. One thing that I'll give Jimmy at the club, Jimmy was never into the drug scene. He never wanted to sell drugs or anything of that nature, okay? But he was really big time on gambling, because a lot of the places out there, you could play the one-armed bandits. We had places where you can go play, gamble. But a lot of guys, when they gamble and they lose, they don't realize that they have to pay. That's when I came in, the bagman. That's when I came in, the enforcer. Well, I would go to their address where they lived there, where they worked there, wherever they were, and I will let them know you have to pay, And that's when, at that point, when they owed money, they'd have to give us a VIG. You know what a VIG is? A VIG is just the interest on the money that you owe. If you don't pay right away, you got to pay us the VIG first. Then you're going to pay us what we owe. And if you fall behind, the VIG comes back up again. So everything that you owe, you best, listen, one thing that Jimmy taught me, I asked Jimmy one day, I said, Jimmy, right? Because he did was into gambling a lot. I said, what's the best way to win at gambling? And Jimmy says, Tommy, I'm going to give you the best information that you're ever going to hear. Ready for this? He goes, the best way to win at gambling is to never gamble, okay? Because all the money goes through them. There's no way you're going to win. There's no way you're going to make up for all the money that you lost. It's not going to happen. So at that point, I wasn't into gambling or anything of that nature. I was just curious. I was just this young kid. And I didn't really know what I was doing. I guess maybe Jimmy was really nice to me, and it was kind of like a father figure in a way. I know it's crazy, but he was kind of like a father figure to me. I mean, we go out to eat. We go hang out at different places. I meet a lot of different people. Everybody was nice to me. Everybody was nice to me when I was with Jimmy, And then I became his bodyguard. And then everybody that came to the club. I mean, this Club Hellfire, if you Google Club Hellfire, it'll tell you everything about it. Now, the crazy thing about that is that in the 80s, when I was working there in the early 80s, it was a known hangout for porno stars. Porno stars hung out in there. Joanna Storm, Tiffany Clark, Veronica Hart, Vanessa Del Rio, all these people were hanging out down there while I was working. And I'm this young guy making all this money. I got to a point where I thought who the hell I was. Like nobody could do anything to me. I'm untouchable. I'm working for Jimmy. Nothing's gonna happen to me. But I was wrong. A lot happened to me. It devastated my life. I worked for Jimmy for about maybe 8 or 9 years. And the first thing that happened to me, I got cocky when I was picking up money. One night I go to pick up money at this club. We were picking up money in Brooklyn at this Spanish club. In other words, I'd offer the Hispanics in a place called Sunset Park, Brooklyn, protection. It was okay at the beginning. They were paying me, but then I go to their club I'm hanging out, putting my foot up on the bar, hanging out, drinking, and having their women partying and not paying anything, and they got tired of me. So one night when I was there with a buddy of mine, I went to the bathroom, and they got me to the bathroom. I was accosted with a gun. The guy put a gun to my back and told me to step out to the back. And I didn't have my gun on me. I left my gun in the car, and took me straight out to the back, right out to the alleyway. And I knew that I was going to be shot, and I knew I was going to be killed. And so I said, and I'm drunk. I've been drinking, partying. I'm like, what the hell's going to happen to me now? All of a sudden, they wanted the money that I had because I had collected money from them that evening, and they took the money off of me. And then that's when I decided to make a move. There were two guys there. I decided to turn around and grab one of them. When I grabbed the guy that had the gun, the other guy stabbed me in the chest, stabbed me right here, and ripped me open. They fled, but I'm still walking. So I'm walking out of the alleyway. When that door shut, it's like those doors, Jason, if they shut from a club, you can't get back in it. And I'm coughing up blood, and blood's coming out my nose, and I know I'm gonna die. They saw me, those guys saw me walking out of the alleyway, and they got into a car, and they ran me over with the car because I was still alive. The next thing that I knew was that I ended up in Park Slope Hospital, and I woke up like about 6 weeks later. They performed open heart surgery on me because when the guy stabbed me, I was stabbed in something called the left ventricle of the heart. And they gave me a heart surgery, and I was in a coma. But I was really injured from the car more than I believe that, because I had multiple contusions, I had busted ribs, broken arm, my pelvis, everything cracked. I mean, I was a mess, but I survived it. And the next thing that I knew is that I had to talk to the police and the FBI. They came up to the hospital to see me. And that's when my life changed from that point. It changed, it got worse.
What was it that they wanted to talk to you about? About your
They
accident?
knew who I was. They knew who I was.
They knew that you were part of the mob, so to speak, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you were part of the mob, the
yeah,
organized crime, and
yeah,
they knew who you were.
yeah. They knew.
And so
They had.
were you scared when they came in? I
Was
mean,
I
I can't imagine
scared?
you being scared of anything.
I
However,
wasn't
you are
scared.
laid up in the hospital and injured. I mean, these guys, these feds come in. What? Tell me about your feelings there.
I wasn't scared of the police. I was still afraid that I was going to die because I was in really bad shape. I was more concerned about my health than it was about those guys, because I dealt with police before, and I dealt with a lot of bad police. A lot of policemen were on the take, and they were working for Jimmy, working for our outfit. So I wasn't afraid of the police. I always knew that Jimmy would help me to get out of any problem that I was having with the law, because they have attorneys, they have all these people, and everything's connected. You know what I'm saying? But when the FBI took over the case, the reason why the FBI got involved was because they wanted to get a few of the guys for RICO charges. They knew that I was part of that, and they wanted me to flip. So they started scaring me with that. I'm going to say this word. I'm going to say it. To me, they tell me, Tom, you're just a nigga. They don't care about you. That's what they were telling me. That's what you are. Look at you, man. You look at your skin color. You're not white. That's what they were telling me. Oh, you sound like you're white. You grew up around them. They're your friends, your mother, but you're not white. And I'm like, yes, I know that. I get that. So they were trying to do whatever they can to make me flip. And it didn't work. It did not work. But it came to a point where I actually started getting a little bit nervous because as time went on and I got better, it took a while. For me to recover from this, it took me, honestly, close to 2 years, because they didn't graft me for surgery or anything. And I had a lot of nerve problems on this side. I had to get therapy. I couldn't hardly lift my arm. It was a mess. It was a mess. Well, I'm fine now. I can get it up now. But I'm just saying, back in that day.
Your scar, though, that open heart surgery, they went in where the knife went in. My mom had open heart surgery, and they usually come this way, right? And they split your sternum. It looks like to me they went through your rib for the fact that that's where the knife went. And they followed it. So that was unconventional at that, and they had to sew you up somehow.
I had busted ribs. When the car ran me over, they crushed my ribs as well. The guy hit me and he ran me over. So these guys must have been astonished that I survived that. And I knew who they were, and the police knew who they were, and nobody said anything. I didn't say anything to them about who they were because that's the way it was at that time. All I could say is the individual, and I wrote about this in my book, the individual that did that to me has since passed away back in 1990. He was murdered. They found him in a container, a garbage container on Avenue C in Brooklyn, New York. And I was questioned about that. I got better. The detectives came to see me. They knew, see, the police knew who did that to me. The word on the street, they knew who did that to me. And when he was found murdered, the police thought I had did it. Do I know who did it? No. Would I tell if I know who did it? No. I didn't do it. But he's dead and I don't miss him, you know. But my life got more complicated because now I was up on charges. I was up on a lot of charges because
So let's jump back to the hospital. So you were in the hospital and you were on charges at that point. That's what you're saying? They started scaring
well, they
you?
had secret back in that day, Jason. They used to give secret indictments in New York City. In other words, I was under surveillance. They were taking pictures of me. They were following me. They were doing everything they can to indict me. So you can get indicted. They could put a whole case against you. All of a sudden, somebody knocks on your door. The police, you're under arrest, Tommy Hardening, you're under arrest. And I'm like, what am I being charged with? Secret indictment. And they take me down. And then I go before on 120 Skimmerhorn Street. It's a damn shame I know the address. 120 Skimmerhorn Street. And they charged me, and I've been indicted for strong arm robberies. Now, they call it strong arm robberies when I go into the place and I say, hey, listen, you know, where's my money? Where's my money this week? And I act like who the hell I am. I got charged with strong arm robberies for doing that. A lot of people, they pressed charges against me. The cops talked them into pressing charges against me. A lot of them got dropped, okay, because Jimmy had looked out for me, but a lot of them didn't. Not everybody's afraid of you, okay? Not everybody's afraid. Most of them are, but not everyone's afraid of you. You know, I thought everybody'd be afraid of me. You know, that's the way I wanted it to be when I was younger. But unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. And I've been warned by this certain judge. This judge been seeing me at the courthouse since I was a juvenile, right? And he said, the next time you come before me, if it's not for a homicide, whatever it is, I'm going to give you about 5 years. I don't care what it is. I'm going to send you to jail. So when I got better and I got out, they tried to question me. Nothing worked that way. And I got out of the hospital and time went on. They were coming by my house. At that time, my girlfriend I had the 2 kids with, the police were constantly coming over there harassing her. So she got tired of that, you know. She got tired of being harassed by the police. They were following her, taking pictures of her and the kids at the park, whatever. It just got too much for her to bear. And I still talk to her to this day. We're friends, by the way. And it just everything was caving in. Everything was coming to a halt. You know, my world was changing. It was changing. And when I got healthier, I didn't want no parts of that. Now, the guys that I was working with, a few of the guys that I was working with, were murdered. They were killed, you know. And Jimmy sat with me one day and he said, you know, Tommy, you know, you need to get out. He didn't want me to get killed. Okay. They started to push Jimmy out. They didn't want Jimmy at the club anymore. And the reason why they didn't want Jimmy at the club anymore, because the money wasn't coming in like the way it's supposed to be. That's what I heard. I don't know. That was from the underboss. Me, I had nothing to do with it. You know what I was? I'm just a guy on the street that they used as a tool to manipulate the public. That's all. That's who I was. That's as far as my bossing would come. You know, guys that come with me, I could tell them what to do, you know, because we're out in the street. But other than that, that's all I was. I wasn't nobody that important. You're never important when you're a part of something like that. You know, you're just not. You're really not. You think you are important because you have money in your pocket and you're driving a Cadillac and you got girls all over you. You think that's what's important. That's not important. You know, and it took me a lot of years to realize that, you know. And at the time, I started writing everything down. I was writing stuff down. I was trying to understand what's happening in my life. You know, I didn't have God in my life. You know, did I believe in God? I don't know. Did I want to see my parents, my father fighting my mother every day? No. My brother Benny, my brother St. Clair, they all got hooked on drugs. My sister Renee got hooked on drugs. You know, I was snorting cocaine, partying in the 80s and thinking who the hell I was. You know, it was a horrible, horrible time. When you think that that was the life that you want, and you see these gangster movies on TV or whatever, it's nothing like that. It's not like that. It's just not. You know, I thought doing that, you know, making money, you know, I'd be happy. And I was making money. I had more money than I know what to do with it. But look what I was doing. Look how I was living. Wherever I walk to, I'm thinking somebody's going to shoot me in the back, or I'm at a certain bar. I'm at a certain area, and I know who's that area is controlled by. You know, I just thought I was, you know, I thought who I was, and it just wasn't the way it was. You know, and trust me, when I was coming up, I was easy to be found. You know, that black guy Tommy, I was the only, they knew who I was in the neighborhood. You know, when I was a teenager, I was doing all these criminal activity things, and the police be knocking on my door, and my father would be pissed. And my father would punch me in the face right in front of the cops, and the cops wouldn't even do nothing because they know him. You know, he slapped, you know, when I was a kid, you know, right in front of the police, you know, and I just, unfortunately, you know, I took the wrong road, and listen, I had plenty of chances to not go down that road. You know, I did. I knew right from wrong. I just didn't know. Listen, when you don't have God in your life, I think this is just me saying this. If you don't have that belief in a higher power, faith, you don't have a life. You don't have a life. You don't have no life at all. And it took me 4 years because they sent me to jail. I went to jail 4 years. And even when I was in jail, they tried to kill me in prison because Jimmy got murdered. Jimmy was murdered in 1992. They sent me to prison that same year in 1992. And my number is 92R7422. That's something you never forget. Okay, that's your state number, 92R7422. And I went up to Rikers Island, and I was housed with the Zodiac killer, Herberto Seda. He's a copycat Zodiac killer. Herberto Seda was in the building C-74, and we were housed together with him. And this was the creepiest, most strange person I've ever met in my entire life. The Zodiac killer was a little guy, a little Hispanic dude, you know, and all we would do is just play chess. The FBI would come up there with the U.S. Marshals and pull me out of my cell and take me to the office there and question me because all they wanted was more information. They did not care about me. They said, well, we could get your time cut. And I could do 4 years because if I tell them what I knew, I would not survive. People found out that I was talking with the FBI, and then the word came out that they're going to kill me in jail. And they tried to do it several times in prison. So I had to make a deal with the warden. I had to make a deal with the warden to get me out of there because they sent 2 guys to shank me, and I was in the visiting room. I took a job in the visiting room handing out uniforms to the inmates. And 2 guys came in and they tried to stab me. And I wound up almost killing both of them by myself. And I was handcuffed, and they just shackled me and everything and took me to non-population. I wasn't in population anymore. And that's when the warden came to see me. And I knew how they were getting drugs in around Rikers Island. I told the warden, I said, listen, I'll tell you how to get drugs in here if you transfer me upstate. Okay, I got to get out of here because it's right in New York. It's right in New York. Rikers Island, people, they're going to kill me. So he knows, the warden knows every inmate in that building. And he knew all about me. And he knew I wasn't some five and dimer guy off the street with the Crips and the Bloods, gangbanging. Those days were over for me. He knew that. So he made the deal with me. And the next day, I was shipped upstate New York. It's a 9-hour drive from Rikers Island. And I started changing. I started talking to inmates. I started seeing younger people coming in the jail, and I started talking to them. They wanted to know who I was, and I started talking to them. I never told them who I was or what I did in my past. That's one thing you never do when you're in jail. You never want to tell these people nothing really about you. They just called me Big Tommy in the jail, and I was just talking to people trying to help them. And then, of course, I found my spirituality, in prison, like everyone else, well, mostly everyone else does. And I started helping. I started making a change. And I served my time. And then I was released in 1997. I was released. Soon as I got out, I got myself a ticket, and then I left New York City, and I ended up in a place called Fayetteville, North Carolina. That's where my mother was. My mother was living in Fayetteville because she couldn't take care of herself anymore. My father passed away August 31st, 1981. And my mother felt free. She was getting his retirement, whatever. She had some money. And I just left New York. I gave up everything. I just left, And now I'm sitting in Fayetteville, North Carolina. What am I going to do now? What am I going to do? So I started, again, I was a big guy. I was a convicted felon. I didn't believe that I could do anything else and no one would hire me. So I took a job at a club out there. And it was a cool club. It was a nice club. It was a nice club. And I met this guy named Troy Thompson. Nice guy, nice boy. Thompson was cool. And he said, Tommy, man, I've been seeing you work here, and I love the way you work. You don't beat up nobody. You talk to them. You pay for these people's cabs. When you're drunk, I will walk you to a cab and I will pay for your cab. Okay? I don't want to fight you. I don't want to do anything. Those days were over for me. All right? Over for me. And he said, and he was a bail bondsman. Troy Thompson was a bail bondsman. He says, how much am I making there? I'm saying I'm making about $250, $300 a night. He says, I could triple that. And he introduced me to bail bonding. Now, I know what a bail bondsman does. I've been bonded out of jail, I don't know, a gazillion times. But I was never on that side of it. And he says, hey, listen, I got to go work on some skips. Want to come with me? So, Jason, I got to tell you guys, Scott, I went with him to do a pickup, and I loved it. I was on the other side. I wasn't being chased. I was doing the chasing. And I loved it. And the money that I was making was unbelievable. So me being a convicted felon in the state of North Carolina, I wasn't allowed to carry a firearm. I was not allowed to have a gun. All right. And I was not allowed to be a fugitive. They don't recognize bounty hunting. They call it bail enforcement. But we were bounty hunters. And I took a course because I wanted to understand all that. I took a course. I wanted to grasp hold of it. If I get a hold of something, I want to know it all. And I took this course on tracing and how to locate people, whatever. And I graduated. And this is what I got here. I did it for 17 years. I worked for the U.S. and I made a deal with the U.S. Marshal's office, and they liked me because they knew that I was a criminal, and I helped them on a bunch of their cases. And this was given to me by the U.S. Marshal's office because they knew that I worked over 3,000 cases for them. And those handcuffs I used for 15 years and never lost them. So this was a celebration that they gave me.
Wow.
That's cool.
So I was a bounty hunter.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I
So
became a bounty hunter I was a bounty hunter for close to 16 years.
Have you ever seen, there is a show, The Bounty Hunter or something. It's a
Dog.
TV series.
Dog.
Huh?
Yeah. That's when I watched the episode.
Is that
of Dog.
anywhere similar at all to what you were doing?
No,
I mean, is it
this is
reality?
the real. I'm going to tell you. I watched the show. The producers of that show, right? The producers of that show. It was on the island in Hawaii, and Dog just picked. His name is Dwayne. I spoke to him several times. Dwayne just picked up ice heads on the island. Ice heads. They were junkies on the island. I hunted down VFOs, violent felony offenders. I hunted down bank robbers, rapists, child molesters. He didn't do that. We did. I did. I hunted down violent criminals. And the U.S. Marshal's office came to me a lot and wanted me to go through their jackets. A jacket is a file on the individual, a jacket, just a file, okay? And they knew who I was. They knew what I used to do. And they were impressed by the way that I made a turn around in my life. You follow what I'm saying? Now, I can say this much. People ask me this all the time. They say, Tommy, you didn't carry no gun with you when doing that? I did carry a gun because I said to myself, I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. Okay, so I did carry a legal firearm on me when I was picking up these people, but I would only use it if I needed to save my life or somebody else's. That's the only reason I decided, because these people I was chasing down were really bad. I mean, really, really, I thought I was bad when I was young, but these people that I was chasing, really bad. We went into a house one time in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm chasing down the defendant that was out on a $200,000 bond. When we got there, the guy had underage children in there that he was using in human trafficking. They had about, I don't know, 12 or 15 kids in there. And I got in contact with the sheriff's office when I was there, and I had this guy in handcuffs on the floor. Him and a few other people, we didn't know who they were, but we figured the police would know who they were. And they were thanking me because kids were missing that we found that were at that location. Okay, and I wrote about that in my book. Okay, so when you're chasing after somebody, you never know what's going to be at the end of the rainbow. You never know what's going to be there. I went into houses where I see individuals starving, little kids hungry, and the parents on drugs, and there's drug paraphernalia everywhere. And I got to put this guy in handcuffs, and his daughter and his son is crying, "Daddy, daddy, daddy." You know what I'm saying? And I look at the garbage can, it's overfilled with beer bottles, liquor, drug, and there's no food in the refrigerator. So I call social services. I call social services, and I stay there with the kids until the sheriff comes to take them to jail, or I take them. Because I got so good at it, the sheriff's department knew who I was. They say, "Tommy's over there." Oh, no, nothing to worry about. Because they knew how good I was, what I was doing, and I was a very caring individual. My point in saying that is that, you can change your life. As long as you're breathing, you can make change. Unfortunately, a lot of guys that I work with when I was running the streets didn't survive. I survived. God's will, may I say, God's will. And then I started going to church. And then I started talking at the church in groups to the young kids and anyone that want to listen, anybody that want to listen, parents, whatever. I had the mayor, I got a letter, the mayor wrote a letter about me as a referral letter. And he said a lot of wonderful things because I helped with the gang problem that they were having in Cumberland County in North Carolina. See, gang members will listen to a guy like me before they listen to a man in uniform. You know what I'm saying? So I knew that I had a platform. I got a platform. I could help people, and it's a redemption. This is my redemption. I wanted to help people. And then I'm gonna tell you something, Scott and Jay, I'm gonna tell you something else that I started doing. I started writing children's books.
No way. How many have you written?
I started writing kids' books. Yeah. I started writing children's books. My name on them. I started doing this about a month ago, and I got a series of books that are coming out because I wanna give back. I wanna help. I didn't have that one person when I was 17 years old come to me and say, "Hey, Tommy, don't go that route. Don't go there. Take that other route." I didn't have that. Okay. I had people that took advantage of me, okay, and wanted me to commit crimes for them. I didn't have that person that motivated me and put me in the right direction. I didn't have that, but I would like to do that for the people now. I would like to do that. And that's what I'm trying to do now. Is how can I say, share the wealth? I'm not wealthy, but when I say share the wealth, I'm talking about, like happiness or give people a chance to be what they can really be, to climb that ladder of success. You could do that. There's no question about it. It could be done. Now you're looking at a guy that went back to school. I went back to school at the age of 40 because I never finished school and I graduated. And then after I graduated, I wanted to do something more. So I went to college. I'm a college graduate. I graduated college in 2014. I walked across the stage in a cap and gown. Okay? So I know that I made progress with my life.
I know you're enjoying this interview, and it looks like to me it's going to go a little bit long. So we're going to split this into 2 parts. We're going to finish with part 1 today and join us next week for part 2.
Thanks for listening to Master Your Millions with Jason and Scott Henderson. Check the show notes for any links or contact information about today's guest. Make sure to follow the show so you don't miss any future episodes.